Chapter 2. Hunter. They were laughing about the beans, the way Jamie mashed them with the back of his fork and tried to make them dance across the plate. Nate played along, pretending the beans were escaping convicts. Eliza rolled her eyes, but even she couldn't help the smile that crept in. It was a good evening, cool breeze coming in through the open window, the smell of wood smoke and late summer clinging to the air. And then Nate reached for his glass, and for just a second, the light caught on his wedding band. It was ironwood, dark as dried blood, with a slim inlay of silver around the middle. It looked like it should be heavy, but it wasn't. He'd had it made by hand, something unique, strong, grounding. Eliza's was simpler, a thin silver band etched with a line of tiny crescent moons, spaced like phases in orbit. They'd found it at a little roadside shop outside Taos on their honeymoon. She always said it hummed, like it remembered where it came from. Inside both rings they'd had the same thing engraved, "Until the hunt is done." It started as a joke, back when they used to go spelunking, hunting cave systems on weekends, crawling into the dark, just the two of them and a headlamp. But it stuck, became something bigger, a promise made in the dark. Jamie asked what it meant once. Eliza had just ruffled his hair and said, "It means we never quit on each other." Nate had nodded, even though he looked like he wanted to say more. Outside, something snapped in the woods. All three of them froze. Nate stood up, slow and instinctual, like his body remembered something his mind hadn't caught up to. He grabbed the flashlight hanging by the back door and gave Eliza a half smile, one that didn't quite make it to his eyes. "I'll check it out. Probably a deer." But she already had that tightness in her gut, like the air had shifted in a way it wasn't supposed to. She watched him walk out into the dark. That was the last time she saw him with both eyes looking human, and the last time the rings meant anything at all. It started with a noise, low and sharp, like a branch snapping in protest, the kind of sound that comes from something heavy moving where it shouldn't be. Nate had only just settled onto the couch when it happened, one leg tucked under him, a beer sweating in his hand. Eliza was already dozing in the chair across from him, and Jamie had gone down easy for once. A quiet night, just shy of perfect. Then that sound, again, closer. He stood, half listening. Outside, the porch light barely reached the tree line. The woods wrapped around the property like they were trying to reclaim it. Nate grabbed the flashlight. "Probably a deer," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. But still, his jaw was tight. Still, he hesitated on the threshold like something in his bones didn't want him to cross it. And then he did. The yard swallowed him. The flashlight beam cut across the grass, caught eyeshine for a split second, low to the ground, too far apart. Then it moved, fast, a blur of fur and shadow and teeth. Nate didn't even have time to yell. The thing hit him like a car, knocked him sideways into the dirt, hot breath in his face, the stench of blood and wet fur, then teeth, tearing through his shoulder like paper, a flash of white pain, and then, gone. Whatever it was disappeared into the woods like smoke. No howl, no growl, just gone. By morning, Nate was a wreck, sweating through his sheets, mumbling half-words, body clenching and seizing like something was trying to climb out of him. His shoulder wound looked worse than any animal bite Eliza had seen. Dark, inflamed, already streaking red toward his neck. She tried to call a doctor. Nate slapped the phone from her hand. "No hospitals," he gasped. "It'll pass." Jamie hovered in the doorway, silent. Then, softly, he said, "I saw it last night, outside my window." Eliza turned, heart already cracking. "It was a dog," Jamie whispered, "but it had people eyes." And Nate laughed, just once. But it was the sound of someone remembering something too late. He came up the driveway like someone who'd done it 1,000 times before. No knock, just the quiet creak of boot leather and the soft clink of metal trinkets knocking together in rhythm with his steps. A long coat hung off his shoulders like it had never been off. The color of old tobacco and road dust, cracked at the seams. His boots left little puffs of dry dirt on their porch. The man looked like he belonged to a different century. Eliza opened the door a few inches, just enough to see the whole of him. Nate was upstairs, out cold and radiating heat like a stove. Jamie was in the living room, headphones on. She didn't want either of them near this man. He smelled like sage, metal, and something else. Something faintly electric, like the air before a lightning strike. "Ma'am," he said, tipping his head, not quite smiling. "Name's Marek." She didn't respond. "I heard something on the shortwave. Strange chatter out of this area. Something old. Thought I'd take a look." He shifted, and the necklace around his neck made itself known. Click, 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 like wind chimes strung with the wrong kinds of memories. Bones, weathered teeth, silver charms, cracked rings, rusted dog tags. Eliza's stomach turned. "We're not interested," she said flatly. Marek nodded. "Didn't think you would be. Nobody ever is. Not the first time." He pulled a small, bone-colored card from the inside of his coat, held it between two fingers like it might vanish if gripped too hard. She took it, out of reflex more than trust. On it, in small dark print, "Marek, I hunt what hunts." No address, just a number scrawled across the back in thick pencil. Maybe a carpenter's pencil? She looked back up, but he was already stepping off the porch. "Wait," she said before she could stop herself. "What did you hear?" He paused, not turning around. "Something hungry," he said. "Something new to itself. That's when they're loudest." Then he walked away, boots whispering back into the trees. That night, Nate's fever snapped. His body jerked like it was trying to tear itself open. He snarled in his sleep, deep animal. Eliza reached out, but when she woke, his side of the bed was cold, and the back door was wide open. The scream never really came out right. It was more of a noise, a broken animal sound that cracked somewhere in Eliza's throat and got stuck halfway between a breath and a wail. She was barefoot, running across the backyard, nightgown clinging wet to her legs. The morning dew had turned the grass slick, but she didn't notice. Couldn't. All she saw was Jamie. What was left of him? His small body was splayed out near the tree line, twisted like a broken doll someone had grown tired of. One arm bent the wrong way, pajama pants shredded. His little blue blanket, the one with the faded dinosaurs, soaked in red and knotted beneath his torso. The grass around him was black with blood. She fell to her knees beside him, hands shaking as she reached out like she could somehow fix it. Like if she held him just right, it would undo whatever had been done. But his chest didn't rise, his eyes didn't open, and his throat was gone. A trail of something, blood, foam, maybe both, led from the porch steps to the trees. Big prints, deep ones, clawed. They didn't belong to anything she knew. Eliza stayed like that for a long time. Minutes, maybe hours, folded around Jamie's tiny ruined body, rocking and murmuring until her voice was gone. The police came. Sheriff Dalton was first, stocky, mustached, the kind of man who wore wariness like a second badge. He took his hat off when he saw Jamie, held it against his chest, and didn't speak for a full minute. Then came the coroner, a younger man named Lowe. Pale, jittery, kept adjusting his gloves like he wanted to crawl out of his skin. They gave Eliza a blanket and something hot to hold that she couldn't taste. Asked questions she barely heard. She told them what she knew. Nate was gone, Jamie had been in bed, then he wasn't, and she woke up to, she couldn't say it. She just gestured toward the yard. Dalton crouched beside the body, squinting. "Mountain lion, maybe," he said. "We've had a couple sightings up in the hills. Damn things are getting braver." Lowe cleared his throat. "Sheriff." Dalton looked back. The coroner was kneeling by Jamie's side, lifting the blanket with a trembling hand. His face had gone gray. "These aren't cat bites," Lowe said quietly. "Look at the radius. This is wide. Too wide." "Eliza, what do you mean?" "I mean," he said, struggling to find the right words, "these aren't animal bites, ma'am. Or they are, but not like anything I've ever seen. They're weirdly spaced, symmetrical, like a human jaw, but—" He trailed off. Dalton stood, adjusting his belt. "Maybe a wolf," he said, a little too quick. "There haven't been wolves in this county for 60 years, Lowe shot back. "Well, maybe one wandered in. Climate's gone screwy. Or maybe it's a dog, big one. People abandon all kinds of things out here." Eliza looked between them, numb and shaking. "My husband," she said. "Nate, he was bitten 2 nights ago. Something hit him in the dark. I think it followed him back. I think it was what did this." Lowe turned sharply, interest flickering behind his discomfort. Dalton's expression didn't change. "Bitten?" he asked. "By what?" "I don't know," Eliza said. "It looked like a dog, or a wolf, or something in between. He said it was just a scratch, but then he got sick. Like, really sick, burning up, and then last night, he was gone." Dalton chewed on that for a moment. Then, quietly, "Ma'am, are you suggesting your husband had something to do with this?" She stared at him. I'm saying whatever got him came back for Jamie. Nobody said anything for a while. The wind moved through the trees, shaking the branches like they were trying to whisper something awful. Lo finally stood. If you've got those clothes he was wearing, anything with a wound on it, I'd like to see it. Could be we were dealing with some kind of infection. Rabies maybe, or hell, something new. Dalton shook his head and muttered, Jesus. But Eliza wasn't listening anymore. Her eyes had drifted back toward the tree line. There, just past the first line of trees, something moved. She blinked. Gone. Just shadows. She clutched the blanket tighter around her and told herself it was nothing. But the breeze that came next smelled faintly of copper and sage. The house was too quiet. Not just silent, but hollow. Like all the sound had drained out with the blood in the backyard. Eliza sat at the kitchen table with the sheriff's card in one hand and a chipped coffee mug in the other, the coffee cold, untouched. Every clock in the house seemed too loud. Tick, tick, tick. Jamie's room still smelled like him. Apple shampoo, crayon wax, and something warm that made her stomach cave in on itself when she opened the door. His toys were still scattered across the floor, a pair of socks curled under the bed like they'd just been kicked off. She closed the door slowly, as if being quiet might somehow rewind the last 24 hours. Upstairs, she found the first real crack in the denial she didn't know she was clinging to. Nate's clothes, his t-shirt, the boxers he'd worn to bed, were in a heap beside the bed. Not tossed, not folded, shredded, long slashes across the fabric like something had peeled them away with purpose. The floor by the door was muddied, not just dirt, prints deep, wide, 5 toes, long, curved claws at the end, like a man's foot had tried to become something else mid-step and left behind a message in filth and splinters. Eliza followed the trail across the hallway, one footprint halfway up the wall like something leapt not walked toward Jamie's room. And in the floorboards right at the threshold was a sliver of something dark. She crouched, picked it up. A claw, curved, sharp, black as pitch, not like a dog's. Something older, meaner. It smelled faintly of rot. She dropped it like it burned her. Her heart was hammering in her throat, but her voice was calm when she said it aloud, like naming it could make it make sense. It was Nate. She didn't cry. That part of her had burned out. This was something else now, something colder. She moved through the house like it wasn't hers anymore, picked up Marek's card from where she'd shoved it in the junk drawer, and walked outside to make the call. He answered on the first ring. Eliza, she froze. How did you know it was me? I knew you'd call. She took a breath. The silence on the line felt thick, like someone was standing just over her shoulder. I think it was him, she said. I think Nate did it. I think he killed our son. Marek didn't ask what made her say it. He didn't say he was sorry. He didn't say anything at all for a moment. Then, it's not him anymore. It wasn't when he turned. They don't come back from that. But he was still him, she whispered. He was still... Her voice cracked. He laughed at something Jamie said. He laughed. That was what was left of him, Marek said. That part burns out quick, but sometimes the thing inside lets a little of the man flicker through, makes it worse, like it wants you to see him before it takes him away. Eliza looked out across the field behind the house. The grass shimmered in the wind like fur rippling. You said we'd finish it. Yes, he said. I'll be there by nightfall. She wanted to ask how. She wanted to ask if he was already close. But the line went dead. Inside, she walked back to the kitchen, looked at the wedding band still resting in the ceramic dish by the sink. She didn't remember taking hers off. It was habit, maybe, after washing Jamie's blood from her hands. She picked it up. It was still warm, until the hunt is done. She slid it back onto her finger and waited for the sun to go down. Marek arrived just as the last light bled out of the sky. The world dipped in copper and bruised purple. His truck was old, dust-caked, and grumbling like it didn't like to be still for long. He didn't say anything at first, just got out slowly, scanning the tree line like the trees might lie to him if he blinked. Eliza stood on the porch, arms wrapped around herself. Her eyes looked older now, less wet, more sharpened. You came, she said. I told you I would. He stepped up, the clink of his necklace filling the space between them. She noticed new pieces, bits that hadn't been there before. A ring with a cracked turquoise stone, a child's plastic charm shaped like a star. She wondered who they'd belonged to. "What now?" she asked. Marek looked past her to the house. "Now we draw him in," she frowned. "You mean use me as bait?" He didn't flinch. "That thing remembers you. It'll come back. You said it wasn't him anymore." "It's not, but it knows what he knew, feeds on it. People always think monsters forget. Nah, they remember. The faces, the smells, the fear." They moved inside. Marek didn't unpack much, just a long, narrow rifle case and a canvas satchel that clicked when it moved. The cabin felt smaller with him in it, like the walls leaned in to listen. He walked through each room, checking windows, testing floorboards. He poured something in a circle outside, silver shavings mixed with ash, and muttered under his breath. Words that sounded wrong in the air. "You hunt a lot of these things?" she asked. "Enough. Enough to know how they start." He paused, didn't look up. "It's not like in the movies." She stepped closer. "Then tell me how it is." Marek set the rifle on the table. "You're not dealing with a man anymore. You're dealing with what's been waiting inside him. Some people crack wide open. Others, it's always been under the surface. Just needed a bite to pull it out." Eliza swallowed hard. "How did you know it was Nate?" Marek looked at her, eyes unreadable. "I didn't," he said. "Just had a feeling." Something in her stomach turned, but she didn't press. Didn't want the answer she thought was hiding behind his teeth. They waited. She lay in the bed, dressed in old pajamas, hair damp from a fake shower, windows cracked open to let her scent drift out like smoke. The house creaked around her. Marek sat somewhere beyond the porch, out in the woods, watching, and the dark pressed in. Time moved strangely in those hours. Her breathing slowed. Every branch scratch, every gust of wind turned her muscles to stone. She remembered Nate's laugh, Jamie's voice, the warmth of their bed. Then she heard it, a low growl, not far, not close, just there, bleeding in from the edges of the world. She sat up. The air had changed. The way it feels before a tornado, electric, tight. A shape moved through the yard, massive. Wrong. The shadow circled the house. It didn't rush. It stalked, slow and sure, dragging claws across the siding like it was drawing lines on a map. She held her breath when it passed the bedroom window, close enough to fog the glass. And then, crash! The front door exploded inward. Wood splintered like bone. A hulking furred form barreled into the living room, jaws wide and snapping, black eyes burning. The thing was Nate's size, but that's where the resemblance ended. This was something primal. Mismatched limbs, bent joints, a rib cage that seemed to pulse like a second heart. Eliza screamed. Not a scream of fear, something worse. Recognition. The beast lunged toward her, and then, crack! The gunshot split the air like lightning through the soul. The creature jerked mid-leap, chest blooming silver. It howled, a sharp, keening sound that cracked glass and made the walls shiver. It staggered backward, legs folding, muscles convulsing, fur falling away in clumps. And there, in the wreckage of limbs and blood, lay Nate, human, naked, mouth parted in a final breath, eyes open. Marek stood just inside the shattered doorway, smoke curling from the end of the rifle. No expression on his face, only the necklace around his throat twitching, like it could feel something new coming. Eliza didn't move for a long time. The only sound in the house was the wind, pushing gently through the broken door, rustling the curtains like the house itself was trying to breathe again after holding it for so long. Nate lay crumpled on the floor. His body curled unnaturally, face slack and pale. His skin was splotched with blood and ash, his chest torn open where the bullet had hit. No fur now, no claws, just a man. Just her husband, her partner, the man who used to make blueberry pancakes on Sundays and hum that stupid song while brushing his teeth. She crawled to him on hands and knees, fingers slipping in blood, knees burning from glass. Her hands found his face, still warm, and cupped it like that might wake him. "It was him," she whispered, her voice breaking on every word. "It was him, but it wasn't." She wasn't crying, not properly. There were tears, but they came without shape, without sound. Her body had run out of ways to express what was breaking inside. Behind her, Marek moved quietly, no fanfare, no swagger, just the sound of leather shifting and the soft clink of his necklace brushing against his coat. He walked over, crouched near the doorway, and began reloading his rifle with practiced calm. Click. Slide. Click. Eliza turned toward him. Her hair was matted to her face, streaked with sweat and Nate's blood. "How?" she asked, voice thin as a reed. "How did you know it was him?" Marek didn't answer right away, just kept working that rifle. Then, without looking up, he said, "Because I bit him." Eliza froze. "What?" Marek finally lifted his eyes to meet hers, and in the dim moonlight, they caught something unnatural, something that flickered red for just a second too long. 2 nights ago, out past the ridgeline where the woods start to curve, he'd wandered out. Maybe he heard me, maybe something inside him already knew. I caught him in the clearing, took a chunk out of him clean and easy, watched him crawl home like a good little messenger. Eliza was backing away now, slow at first, like her mind hadn't caught up to what her body was already screaming. "Why?" she breathed. He tilted his head. That faint, knowing smile never left his face. "Because I was always going to take you all, one by one. I like to play with my food." She reached the wall and pressed her back to it. The floor tilted under her, the room threatening to collapse into some kind of nightmare she couldn't claw her way out of. You said you were a hunter." "I am," Marek said, standing. "I hunt what hunts. And sometimes," he continued, brushing the dust from his coat, "I teach it how." His voice changed then, dropped lower, fuller, like something else was speaking through him. His words were no longer just words, they vibrated, thick with something primal, something old and hungry. "You humans," he said, stepping toward her, "you love to hope. You build whole lives on it. Stack your futures on little dreams and promises and engraved silver bands. It's what makes you taste so damn good." She reached for the rifle Nate had kept under the bed. Marek didn't stop her. She pulled it out, cocked it, aimed for his chest. He smiled wider. "You think silver's gonna work on me?" he said, eyes glowing now, not just red but burning like coals behind glass. "You think I'm like him?" Then he changed, not in a scream and bones cracking kind of way. No, Marek's shift was deliberate, controlled. His skin peeled back like it was just waiting to be shed, and beneath it, fur like iron filings, stretched muscle coiling like rope, a jaw full of fangs that clicked together as he grinned. He was taller now, thinner, sharper. Everything about him radiated power honed over time, like a blade that had tasted too many throats to ever go dull. Eliza fired. The shot rang out, echoed through the trees, made the birds scatter. It hit him in the chest and bounced off like spit on stone. Marek didn't flinch. He walked through the smoke of it, one slow step at a time. She dropped the gun, ran, out the crooked door. The woods were waiting. They swallowed her screams fast. There was no struggle, only one final, gasping no, and a wet snap that sounded like firewood breaking. And then, silence. Morning came slowly. The sun crept over the treetops like it was afraid of what it might find. Down the old county road, Marek walked alone. His coat was dustier than before, hem dragging along the gravel. His boots thudded softly, keeping time with the distant caw of crows circling overhead. He hummed something tuneless, low under his breath. Something that might have once been a lullaby, or maybe just sounded like one if you didn't listen too close. Around his neck, his necklace swayed. The trinkets clinked gently, the old teeth, the rusted tags, the broken charms. And hanging among them, catching the light just so, 2 rings. One made of ironwood inlaid with silver, the other etched with a crescent moon pattern, still warm. The engraving on both was faded, but still legible if you looked close enough. Until the hunt is done.